Hi students, now this is video number 4 of class 9 chemistry and myself BK Mishra from Woodbine Modern School. We are dealing chapter 2 of class 9 chemistry is matter around us pure. In our last video, we discussed about the properties of solutions, what are solutions, what are the types of solutions, and today we are going to discuss about suspensions. Now, what is a suspension? We are going to discuss about suspensions. We have discussed about solution or true solution. Now, today we are going to discuss about suspensions. Now, what is a suspension? A suspension is a heterogeneous mixture in which the small particles of a solid. A suspension is a heterogeneous mixture in which the small particles of a solid are distributed over a liquid. Now you have seen chalk water mixture, muddy water mixture, milk of magnesia. Now these mixtures are suspensions, and example, muddy water, milk of magnesia. Now what is milk of magnesia? When magnesium hydroxide is dissolved in water, it is called milk of magnesia. Now muddy water, milk of magnesia, flour in water mixture, and you have also seen a suspension of other muddy water, also milk of magnesia, chlorine water mixture, and chalk in water mixture. Now these are all examples of suspensions, etc. Now in this, the solid particles are distributed all over the solvent, and they do not completely mix, and a visible difference between these particles are seen, and visible boundary is visible in these mixtures. Now a solution a suspension is a heterogeneous mixture. Now a suspension is a heterogeneous mixture in which the solvent but remain suspended but remain suspended during the bulk of the mixture. Now let us come on to the properties of suspension. What are the properties of suspension? Now the first property is a suspension is a heterogeneous mixture. The second point is the particles of a suspension can be seen with our naked eyes. This was not possible in the case of solution. The particles in the case of solutions cannot be seen even with the help of a powerful microscope, but that is not in the case of suspension. Here the particles of a suspension can be seen with our naked eyes. Now the particles of a suspension, as the particles size are big enough to scatter light, so the particles of suspension scatter light the particles of suspension scatter light when light and make the path visible. The particles of suspension are big enough to scatter light and make the path visible. Now fourth point is the suspension is not stable. Now true solution is quite stable, but suspension is not stable. That means when this mixture is left undisturbed for a period of some time, then the heavier particles settle down under the force of gravity. But that was not possible in the case of true solution or solution. But that is possible in, so the suspension is not stable. Now the fifth point is the components or the constituents of the suspension can be separated by the process of filtration. Now let us come to lights or colloidal solution. After suspension, let us know about colloids or colloidal solution. Now solutions in which the size of the particles are intermediate between that of a true solution and suspension is known as colloids or colloidal solution. Now, example of colloids are milk, blood, starch, smoke, etc. Now these are examples of colloids. Now let us discuss about the properties of colloids. What are the properties of colloids? Now the first one is that colloid is a heterogeneous mixture. A colloid is a heterogeneous mixture. Though it seems to be homogeneous, but it is heterogeneous mixture. Now the second point is the size of the particles of a colloid of the particles of a colloid are big enough to scatter a beam of light. The size of the particles of a colloid are big enough to scatter a beam of light. Now the particles of a colloid cannot be seen by our naked eyes. Though these particles can be seen with the help of a microscope, but it cannot be seen with our naked eyes. Now the fourth point is a colloid is quite stable, and the fifth point is colloidal particles cannot be separated by the process of filtration. By the process of filtration. Now let us discuss about Tyndall effect. What is Tyndall effect? Now the scattering of light by the particles of colloid or a colloidal solution is known as Tyndall effect. Now, it can be observed when this Tyndall effect can be observed when a fine beam of light, when a fine beam of light enters our room. Another example is sunlight passes through the canopy of a forest. Then also this Tyndall effect can be observed. Now let us see the components of colloid. Now there are two components. One is dispersed phase and the second one is dispersion medium. First one is dispersed phase and the second one is dispersion medium. Now what is dispersed phase? Now let us see what is dispersed phase. Now the solute-like component or the dispersed particles in a colloid form the dispersed phase. The solute-like particles or the dispersed particles which are scattered throughout dispersion medium is known as dispersed phase. Now, in the case of solution, we have seen what is the component of binary solution, solute and solvent in the same manner, and the solute particles of a colloid are known as dispersed phase and the solvent particles are known as dispersion medium. Now the second one is dispersion medium. The component in which the dispersed phase is suspended is known as dispersion medium. So what is dispersion medium? What is dispersion medium? The component in which the dispersed phase dispersed phase is suspended is known as dispersion medium. Now students, this is the classification of colloids. Now colloids not only involve solids and liquids, it also involves gases. So the physical state of the dispersed phase as well as that of the dispersion medium, that is solute and solvent, is also very important. So on the basis of this dispersed phase and dispersion medium, colloids can be classified into the following types. The first one is sol, the second one is solid sol, the third one is aerosol, fourth one is emulsion, the fifth one is foam, the sixth one is solid foam, and the seventh one is gel. Now we will discuss about this one by one. Now, what is a sol? A sol is a colloid in which tiny solid particles are dispersed over a liquid medium. And now in this colloid, the dispersed phase is a solid, small particles of solid, and the dispersion medium is a liquid. Now what is the example? Ink, starch solution. Examples are ink, starch solution, etc. These are examples of sol. Now the second one is solid sol. The second one is solid sol. Now what is a solid sol? Now a colloid in which solid particles are dispersed in a solid medium. A solid sol is a colloid in which the particles are, means the particles means solid particles. The solid particles are dispersed in a solid medium. Now here the dispersed phase is also solid and the dispersion medium is also solid. Now what is the example? The example is colored gemstones like ruby. Example, colored gemstone like ruby. These are examples of solid sol. Now the third one is aerosol. Now what is an aerosol? Now aerosol is a colloid in which solid or liquid is dispersed in a gaseous medium. Now aerosol is a colloid in which solid or liquid is dispersed in a gaseous solution. Gaseous solution. This is aerosol. Now the example of aerosol is smoke, automobile exhausts. Now the fourth colloid is emulsion. Now this is a colloid in which minute droplets of one liquid are dispersed over another liquid which is not miscible with it. Now the examples of emulsions are milk, butter, etc. Now the fifth one is foam. What is a foam? A foam is a colloid in which gas is dispersed over liquid medium. Here the dispersion medium is liquid and the dispersed phase is a gas. Now what are the examples of this colloid? Soap bubbles, shaving cream, etc. These are the examples of foam. Now what is solid foam? When a gas is dispersed in a solid medium, then that is known as solid foam. What are the examples? Examples are sponge and bread. Now the seventh or the last one, that is gel. What is a gel? A gel is a semi-solid colloid in which solid particles are dispersed over liquid in a continuous network, and the examples are hair gel. Now this was all about the types of colloids. We have discussed all the types of colloids, and we will meet in our next video, and till then, thank you and have a nice day.